Today we're celebrating Kofi Annan.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
What a life well lived. And of course, everybody is out resplendent in their mourning attire.
Yeah.
How are you both?
I'm good. Mother and son, we're well by God's grace. How are you guys doing?
No mischief.
I'm not saying anything.
You.
Careful. And you know, Kofi Annan was soft-spoken.
I know, right?
Kofi Annan was soft-spoken, so we're going soft. You naturally, I am.
Really?
No, you are not.
He's not.
No, you are not.
I think in this industry you can't be soft-spoken.
I don't know if
I
should suggest and then attempt to prove that I actually am very soft-spoken.
I am.
Well, actually, what I do
today
remember
we're going to drool over
is the fact that he was a gentleman. Gentleman.
Yeah. Yes, he was.
Absolute gentleman.
I've been a gentleman since you met me. You never acknowledged that fact. I'm surprised.
Maybe when you turn 80?
Yeah. I will.
Yes, maybe.
I think it's good, and we're welcoming a lot of people into our country between now and Thursday at least. And we're encouraging all of us to go to the Accra International Conference Center from 10 till about 4 p.m. and let's pay our last respects today and tomorrow. Because on Thursday, you will not get the opportunity. It will be the time for the VVIPs, very, very important personalities who will have the opportunity to do that. So let's go to the Accra International Conference Center. We will head towards the venue after the show. But right now, we have to do the newspapers.
We do. And we have a few of them here. I have the Daily Guide and the Finder.
I've got a graphic.
Okay.
You have the Times
and the Dispatch.
I have the Dispatch. Then a new one, the Hawk.
No, you have the Statesman, not the Dispatch.
And the Hawk.
Which one is the Hawk?
It's a new one. Well, I'm not showing that one to you, but it's called the Hawk.
Let me see.
Hey, is it for the new group that the NDC
has outdoored?
Oh!
I don't know.
No,
I don't know. Mama, believe it immediately.
The Hawk newspaper is for the Hawks of NDC. Is that what it is?
Well,
No,
I don't know.
so.
I don't know.
Today we're going
Soft-spoken, that's right. All right then. So I'll run through the headlines quickly.
Kofi Annan would have wanted you guys to be real, to be true to yourselves. So please be real.
So no soft speaking.
He killed everyone.
Oh, Mama B.
He killed everyone.
Anyway, she knows he would have failed. Okay, so Daily Guide has these. Kofi Annan body arrives for final journey. Double track system begins. And an interesting one on the side. Back off. Ex-speaker tells John Mahama. Also, Nana traces collapsed banks to lawlessness. Really? Okay then. Also in the Finder today. Anxiety all over as SHSs reopen today amidst teething problems. Also, public viewing of Kofi Annan's body starts today. That's from 10 a.m.
Is that what the paper said? Teething problems?
Teething.
This is a naysaying newspaper.
Professional naysaying newspaper. Owned by the Minister for Business Development. All right. Fish processors cry for extension officers. President blames collapse of banks on lawlessness. And NCA to auction 4G spectrums to raise money for DDT migration. We will sell to Peter and buy Paul. Okay then.
Yeah. So I have the Daily Statesman. It has on the front page, Malta remains of Kofi Annan arrive. Help rule of law to work. President charges lawyers as President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo was at that conference, the annual conference of the Bar Association. Axim Sea Defense Project underway, and we have on the Today newspaper, Wager Bawe will be beyond common fund. MC assures that's the area that Joseph Akable lives, I'm sure.
For security
we can go ahead and
prove me wrong.
For security reasons, he cannot confirm nor deny.
Suicide Sloom, psychiatrist. We had an interaction with him yesterday. Dr. Akwesi Osei is the CEO of the Ghana Mental Health Authority. We have a woman, 56, hot after issuing fake check or a dad check. Oh, fake check, not a dad check, fake. All right.
How much is that? What amount is that? Oh, this is just the headlines, right? Okay.
We can look at the Ghanaian Times now. The front page says government rolls out double track system today. We are told 192,775 students begin new SHS semester system. And Kofi Annan begins last journey. There's a photograph of the great statesman. It goes on to add that as remains arrive in Accra. The back page of the Ghanaian Times has this story about illegal mining. It says desist from illegal mining is coming from Hajia Alima Mahama. She's cautioning the MMCs. And air pollution kills more Ghanaians than AIDS, malaria combined. We'll get the details very soon. But let's do the Daily Dispatch quickly. It says NDC's national chairmanship elections, regional balancing dims Hudu's chances. There's a photograph of Alhaji Hudu Yaya, Haruna Idrisu, and ex-president Mahama. And the New York Times article which annoyed Trump. And GACC on NPP and its campaign promises, also on the front page of the Daily Dispatch. The back page has that story about the NDC and the internal elections, the bit about the chairman. You can get details when you grab a copy of the paper.
There's a cartoon of something that I've heard.
Yeah, they said Akufado's pre-Xmas
reshuffle in December. Okay. Let's do the Daily Graphic newspaper. Front page of the Graphic. 3-day mourning begins as Kofi Annan's body arrives, and there's a picture of Kofi Annan's wife and the president as the body arrived yesterday at the Kotoka International Airport. GRA goes after vehicle owners who evade duties. First batch of double-track students report to school today. And on the back page, President cuts sword for Axim Sea defense projects. U.S. aid registers 9,000 BA farmers under advance. That's it for Graphic.
Okay. Shall we do a few details?
The bit about the air pollution, we are told, it's on the back page of the Ghanaian Times, we are told that it kills more Ghanaians than AIDS, and that is coming from one social entrepreneur, Muntaka Chasan. He was relying on data from the World Health Organization. He says that it shows that more than 28,000 annual deaths in Ghana are attributed to air pollution. And recently, the country's annual air quality is more than 5 times above the World Health Organization's recommended safe level. So very unsafe. So we are talking about fumes from car exhaust, open burning of garbage and biomass, road dust, the use of inefficient cook stoves and polluting fuels indoors were causing millions of premature deaths annually. A problem which says is being overlooked by Ghanaians. For the bit about the dust, I'm very familiar with that one because of one of the roads I use. I mean, so I sometimes deliberately avoid that road entirely, and I mean that tells you how the situation we find ourselves in. But the other ones about the vehicle, I mean, they are all on our streets. Vehicles that are
It's interesting how we don't. We're not serious about such things.
Yeah.
We feel but in other countries, they take air pollution rather very serious.
Yeah.
We feel like it's.
To be fair, other countries pollute in much larger quantities than we do. It's not a reason why we shouldn't take it seriously. In fact, it's all the more reason why we should be interested in preventing our numbers from rising to the point where it becomes a global concern. At the moment, it's a local concern, a very big one, a major one that we do need to pay attention to, because sometimes people die and we don't quite understand how they even contracted the illnesses that killed them. And a lot of it is just because the wrong stuff is in the air. So I'm hoping...
We're given a sense of some areas you should avoid in terms of air pollution. The Kolebu Teaching Hospital area, we are told, is one. There's also the Jamestown, Choco, Agbogloshi.
So mainly the congested areas.
Yes, but the bit about the Agbogloshi and Choco area, we are told that it's noted for electronic waste dumping ground, where roughly 40,000 Ghanaians reside.
Yeah.
So those are some areas that they are told you should be
avoid
careful.
and then
if possible,
go where, like live where. Imagine you live around the Kolebu area.
About 40,000
relocate.
It's a big problem.
Unless you're willing to pay the price.
It's not a decision that you can just wake up and make.
But in the end, you will have to make it.
But there's a hospital. There's that's our biggest.
Yeah, in fact, the story makes that point.
Wow,
that's worrying.
Imagine you are in the facility to get well, but the environment is actually making your condition worse.
Well. All right, I have the Daily Guide, a couple of stories in here. Ken Jirasa is telling John Mahama to back off. He's the latest voice in a series of them, especially those of the old guard in the NDC, who are all suggesting that there's no point. I want to read a quote from him. He says, when you are at war and you provide your best arsenal and you lose, conventional wisdom requires that you retreat and go and serve as an expert general. He added, you then advise the younger ones to go ahead, but don't show your face again. Interesting. That's kind of what James Victor Beho shared with me as well on the sidelines of the interview we did yesterday, because he has gone on record to say he doesn't want the former president to run, and he gives similar reasons. He talks about the fact that, well, look, if you failed to win the popular vote across the nation,
when you were
you were the sitting president with all the resources at your disposal,
and knowing the way we conduct our politics.
Yes. Now you want to first of all come and win your party over, but after that, what reason would the larger population have for choosing you, even if your party decides that you are the only one that they think can represent them? And then he talked about how that in itself is a problem. If the NDC chooses former President Mahama, then Victor Beho believes that that will be sending a signal to the world that that is the best they can do. The person who lost in the last election is the best they can do as a party. And that the party should embrace change, rebranding, so that they offer themselves as an alternative to the people of Ghana, rather than offering themselves as a known quantity that has been rejected.
Well, it depends on perhaps where you take it from. And if you look at some of the best examples from some of the world's democracies, we've had former presidents who have lost or been out of power and come back to win power. And just recently, before he was jailed, Lula da Silva had tried. He was, but he was.
Well, they say he still has a chance.
He was complimented to be a very good leader during his time. He had to do it, so he didn't really leave power on a very negative note at the end of the day.
I think that is subjective.
Yeah,
he left power.
Yeah, well, definitely. You know. So at the end of the day, the point is proud to when he was imprisoned, he was said to be, if you look at the public opinion polls, said to be one of the leading candidates or the leading candidates at the time. The thing is, if some critics of the former president are saying that the party rather needs to do more introspection and rebrand, essentially, that then is a reason why the former president could say that I have rebranded myself, and I feel that I can also be part of the rebranding of the party and present a better rebranded party and myself to
But that's
an
interesting conversation.
Yes, it is.
Because then he would have to demonstrate.
It's a far-fetched conversation.
He would have to demonstrate this rebranding. What has changed about former President Mahama? He's still surrounded by the same people. It's still the same people on his team. No one has changed.
I don't think he should necessarily change, and I say that because if the NDC picks any other person to contest instead of Mr. Mahama, that individual will be talking about the record of the NDC as against the record of the MPP. And our best bet for the NDC obviously will be the record of John Mahama against the record of Nana over the past 4 years, because these two individuals have had 4 years each.
So then the argument comes in always about record versus record. Yes. I mean, the NPP didn't win on the record of Kufuor, did they?
But the point they made was they pointed you to social interventions they had introduced during that period. So now if you are going to say that you did all those infrastructure that Mahama did, who better to argue out his records than the man himself? That is what they will tell you.
The man himself whose record was not enough.
Yeah, but we've had the benefit of another record. So he wants to come and show you that, I mean, they were complaining about the city. The city is nearing 5 city now. Yeah. I handled it better. Then Baumia obviously disagreed, and the back and forth continues. I mean, I think it will be an interesting race in itself, but let's see whether.
Well, yes. However it pans out, it will be interesting. That's for sure. Quickly, let me touch on this. JHS boy commits suicide over SHS placement. This is a story on page 7 of the Daily Guide. Apparently, a 16-year-old junior high school leaver who thought he would not be admitted by any senior high school in the country due to his performance in the basic education certificate examinations has reportedly committed suicide. The unfortunate incident happened yesterday in Takwa, and the deceased, Daniel Mensah, allegedly hanged himself. after obtaining aggregate 24 in the BECE. I'm confused. Isn't it automatic? Are there some people who can't go to?
No, so when
he was part of the 60,000 who hadn't been placed.
Yes, so because of the grade he got, the 24, I can predict that it means that if he picked top schools of a certain class, he was not going to get placed in any of them.
That's right.
So he should have simply walked to the solution center and make use of the opportunity to pick another school.
And definitely those schools that he was going to pick were really not going to be in the first and second tier.
So when I this was one of the things I talked to Dr. Akwesio say yesterday about, because there was another incident about placement. I'm not sure it's the same, because this story says yesterday. We heard about one, I think, sometime last
week.
It's the same story.
Here's the suicide note that he left.
Oh, he left a note.
He said
somewhere Takwa away.
Takwa, yeah.
The same agent.
A heartbreaking note. I'll read it. He wrote, "Mom, do not think about me anymore. I will kill myself and leave this earth, and I can't stay anymore because I did not get to school. I know I did not do well, but somebody had 47 and got a school. Why me?" Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like we should be telling our young, the young people that if you get aggregate 40, if you get aggregate 24, there are very successful people today who got worse grades.
Yeah.
There are people who didn't even go at all. And I think we should be, instead of always trying to tell them.
The way society reacts to them, from the note you get a sense that he felt he had really disappointed people who expected more from him. So sometimes when people fail and they come home to how we receive them, they don't tell the children that, I mean, your neighbor, the other guy, you are in the same class with him. Why did he do all of that? Like that
you know, last year I helped a young girl now who is in one of the schools in Cape Coast, hadn't gotten a placement. And she was supposed to choose among the schools. So, and she went through that torrid time for 2 weeks, because when the schools had reopened, she still hadn't gotten a school. And her colleagues, she attended a top school in Accra. She was supposed to.
So it was almost like automatic. Once you went to a known school, she automatic that you get to.
She went to, I think, if in Accra, the first 3 top schools.
Okay. So it was
one of the first.
It was supposed to be automatic that she'll probably go to a Wesley Girls.
She had
or
won
a Holy
awards
Child
at speech and prize giving. Had been given even a bursary, a scholarship to travel to Norway, Sweden, and on various programs. So even I'm told even the teachers were shocked. The parents were surprised. So if that sort of reaction is around such people, you're definitely expected to react differently. She had to be taken to go and live with the auntie. She was crying almost every day. By the end of the first week, we'll be asking the mom, in school. And you never know what could happen to the young lady when she's in the room alone, doing nothing.
True.
So I guess that also gives us a certain perspective about how society has changed and what pertains in perhaps what we think is the so-called advanced countries, in which we even have more pervasive, pressurized characters and environment around us than we think. Already the parents can afford, the children will see gloom around them, etc. So it's these help around them, the parents, the friends, the church and all that. But unfortunately, these institutions, we don't seem to do too well.
Social supports.
We put too many pressure on the children. The church is always talking about not the help and the moral support they need, but rather the financial support that the parents will need. So the gospel is always about prosperity, etc. So we're not getting the right things to the children.
You know, yesterday I said that parents will be frustrated. If your child is not placed, you'll be going through the frustration yourself. But don't forget that your child could also be frustrated. So you should have a fair balance and think about the child, you know.
I want to say something. And I know that not everyone will agree, but I feel strongly about it. First of all, we don't know what all the factors are behind the young boy's action to take his own life. There could be pre-existing conditions. He might have been depressed or might have been bipolar. There could be other reasons why he took the news that way and decided to take that action. So we can't speculate about that. But one thing is obvious. This young man didn't quite understand what his options were. He didn't realize that he could actually get a school. He didn't realize what he had to do in order to get to school. Neither did his parents. Nobody around him was able to give him the advice he needed so that he could actually do something about his situation.
I get a point you are driving at. The education has not gone down very well.
Yeah. And I remember last week when I spoke to Cassandra Chumapofo, I sought to find out from her what they might do differently next year, you know, when they have to go through this all over again with a new group of people. Because clearly this year there have been problems.
Last year there were problems.
Indeed. So I was keen to see whether there is learning, whether there is something changing, you know, for the next batch. But her response was that they have done everything that they're supposed to. That, unfortunately, tells me that next year they'll do the same, because they don't actually think there's anything else they could have done or anything different they could have done. It's a concern. Someone is dead.
Because of this.
Because they didn't know what options were available to them. We need to start taking this thing seriously. If you do the same thing and expect different results, there is a name for you. We can't assign that name to ourselves.
And yesterday we interacted with Richard Kojonyakon from Cape Coast, and he had spoken to some managers or heads or administrators of the various top senior high schools and even the second tier or third tier schools there. Now, for the non-top schools, so to speak, most of them were day, we're told. Now, they don't have hostel facilities. Last year, there were students who were posted there to be in the boarding school. So they came into some kind of arrangement with private hostels as well as government to do that facilitation, to have some quasi-boarding facility of a sort. On the other hand, even the well-known schools had some arrangement with owners of private hostels, in which some of those private hostels were even managed as if they were they were boarding houses. So they will have a housemaster, they will have all the prefects, etc. But that's a challenge, because if students know that they are placed in a school which is predominantly a day school, but they are supposed to be managing somehow 12-year-olds these days as they are, 13-year-olds, 14-year-olds going to SHS1, not knowing their bearing, not being independent at home before going to school, that's a huge problem. I don't know how any of us would have coped at that age if we were put in that state, but that's what the children would have to go through, coupled with what they have to and the pressure that they have to go through to learn. If that person was a science student, for example, you have to be competing with some of the best. And that's something that the government needs to take critical notice of, because it looks like that is absent. We have children who have been placed in schools in which they are several kilometers away from their home to be in a day school. How is that possible?
Yeah.
It's not good enough.
I'm yet to see enough action to tackle that problem. You're right. Finally, page 15 of the daily guide, finally from me, I mean, a baker, a man who works for the owner of a bakery, has defiled the owner's child. Essentially, he was sent, his name is Samuel Danso. So this is the prosecution's case that I'm reading. Samuel Danso, alias Kwabing, apparently was sent to wake up the children in the owner's house, and he went there and had anal sex with this child before waking up the other children. They don't say in the story how old this child is, but apparently he did it a number of times. The child was afraid, but then eventually reported it to her older sister, who then reported it to the family. Now here's the best part. It's not the or the worst part. It's not the family that reported this to the police. Some neighbor was listening to them deliberating on how to deal with the matter, as if they had the right to deal with a criminal matter on their own. And the neighbor who overheard them then reported it to the police. So the neighbor is the complainant, not the family. This happens a lot. You know, people think that they have the right to decide on criminal matters on their own, but the law does not give room for that.
Well, some of you will have to do my JoyNews.com.
Okay.
Yeah, a number of stories. IMF country rep Dr. Natalia Koliadina ends duty tour on the 18th of September. She's been here a while. Congratulations to her. And also, MOH, Ministry of Health, considering intelligence gathering unit to improve the sector. Yeah, it's long overdue, especially for communicable diseases. Hold off 5% straight levy implementation. That's the plea of the AGI. Sino Hydro bauxite deal is a loan, Atoforsen cites Baumia comments. Yeah. And Shraj to be petitioned over $3 million wrongful payment at Bost. Bost seems to be in the headlines all the time. 2,000 defunct bank staff to lose jobs. Deputy Employment Minister is the one saying this. So we're moving up from 1,700 to 2,000. And 6 hospitalized after stampede at Kumasi Central Market. 6 people, including a pregnant woman, have been hospitalized. Very sad story. And there'll be more in the coming bulletins. Modric deserved UEFA Player of the Year ahead of marketed Ronaldo. And that's Ramos sharing his opinion there. Well, we'll see who picks it. And there we go.
All right, so that's it for the review?
Yeah.
All right.
Well, so we have to take a break for sports, but remember today we're here with you all along, and we're celebrating the man, a global icon, Dr. Kofi Annan. Doesn't like using the doctorate though, so Kofi Annan it is. And we're having his body laying in state. We're going to have the public viewing for the public today, and so from 10 a.m. any of us could always fire past that body, but we'll be there bringing to you some great interactions throughout.